All right, let's talk about cables and getting those into the workout program. And let's talk specifically to the beginner. We just talked about tubing in the past, a few minutes ago, and a lot of the similar to same application. The difference being, if you're newbie thinking about this and you listen to what we said there about resistance profiles and bands and how it changes as the band gets stretched versus the band, at the beginning of the regular length of the band to the stretch length of the band, this is where the major difference starts to come in with cables, because if you're connected to a cable stack, that resistance profile stays relatively the same the whole time, right? If you have effectively, if you have 40 pounds on the stack, talk about that, 40 pounds on the stack, you're still at the beginning, it's going to feel like 40 pounds at the stack at the beginning of the movement and at the end of the movement. That's just the way it is. But cables are awesome because they allow a few different things to be done outside of what you'd be able to do with, say, a fixed piece of equipment or like even a free bar or a set of dumbbells. I love cables because they open up a lot of variability for things like pushing and pressing and curling and extending and things like that. But I love because they're very helpful for the rotational component, which I think is so often missed. No, I know it's so often missed in 98% of the programming and the workouts that I just see people doing on a daily basis. When I say rotation, I just mean things. I think this is a common term that people can think about, which is the wood chop type of high to low rotation through the trunk, through the hips.
The golf swing, the slap shot, the baseball.
There you go. Exactly.
Boom.
And those are, when people are going in and they want to train their quote unquote layman's terms core and all the things that it involves. If you're not rotating, then you're not training properly. If you're training your quote unquote core. So I love cables for that and some of those applications, but maybe turn it over to you, Jeff, just from a cable perspective. What are some of the applications? What are the things you think like a newbie could be doing? And how would you explain to them how to do it well to get familiar with the cables, to not be afraid to go over there and give it a try and explore a little bit?
So what I like about the cables is you can line them up with the muscle fiber that you're working for yourself and for your own anatomy. Whether you're on a bench doing an incline fly, you want to stand and do a press, you want to do a decline fly, high to low, whatever it is, there's ways to sit there and set that cable up for that resistance
Fully
profile.
adjustable. Fully adjustable.
Exactly. And if you can get the bench in there, you don't have to stand the whole time. You can get the bench in there, sit. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can use the bands. But as long as they're aligned with the muscle...
Cables.
Cables. As long as they're aligned with the muscle fiber and the action that we're doing and we're properly loading these cables, that's completely fine. Where I see cables getting misused is going way to failure before you go into your presses with like some flies where you're supposed to be activating, right? Or like pre-fatigue.
So what you're doing is you're talking about somebody doing a ton of fly movements using the cable. So before like that butterfly movement before they go and on a strength training day and going and getting underneath the heavy barbell or heavy dumbbells. Yeah. And
there's application for that if we're looking at hypertrophy or bodybuilding, and it's a different conversation, but I think that there's a misapplication when used with, like we're talking about cables, bands, things like that in either previous or like post fatigue strength training, where they're like, I just did my chest and now I'm going to do 4 sets of flies to fatigue.
Right. So maybe the takeaway here is like, if you're new to this, like the time to start this, and maybe CCU agree or disagree, is like right there at the beginning of your training session. Like if you're unfamiliar with them, like go over there, let's play a little bit, like while you're fresh, but pre-fatigued, to maybe use it as a warm up, much like you would be the bands in the way that we described before, or just kind of, again, you're fresh, you're not worried about time yet. You're over there, you're able to explore.
I honestly see the cables as more as a bodybuilding facilitation. Yeah. Like if we're going to look at functional strength, and I hate to say that word functional because a lot of the functional strength does not translate to real world application. It just doesn't. No one's standing in neutral position and doing all the grabbing their package off the floor. It's not happening. But just with that application, I see it being used wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, we talked about fiber alignment, things like that. If you really want to nerd out on that, then listen to the podcast that we've done with Caleb and Jeff with regard to specifically how to build bigger, better arms. And there's a few other ones in there.
Videos on it as well.
Go to the Red Dot Fitness YouTube channel. You're going to see a bunch of that stuff. Cece, cables.
I do like cables. I think that they're pretty forgiving because, you have the load adjustment can be, let's say 10 pounds to, 170, 80 pounds. Not all cable machines are created equal though. So depending on the thickness of the cable, that's going to change, the resistance that you're getting. But, for the most part, I think it's pretty forgiving, especially for a new person. I think there are some things that you need to be aware of. Jeff talked about fiber alignment, but I'm thinking about joint axis alignment as far as what joint is moving and then where the cable is lined up to utilize this piece of equipment. But, kind of like selectorized equipment anymore, when you go to a gym for a cable machine, it's going to have the pretty little pictures with the anatomy and then, suggestions of exercises to do with it. So like you mentioned, if you're new, and you want to play with it and you've never really played with it, you can go over there, kind of take a look, or maybe ask your, professional that's there to take you through some exercises. I think that, there's definitely limitations, but, for isolating certain body parts or for doing rotations, which is often neglected, I think it's a great, great modality.
Yeah. So again, if you want to see, if you're a little bit more advanced, or even if you just want to nerd out a little bit and hear more about that joint alignment, fiber alignment stuff for, building certain areas of your body, and where the cable applications are our favorite exercises and the ones we like to use the most with both just in our own programs with our clients, go to the Red Dot Fitness YouTube channel, check out both the demonstration videos as well as the instructional videos by Caleb and the podcasts as well. They're
really good. Not biased, but they're really good.